Hello, everyone. Let me just get our game in, pull this out. All right. Hey, welcome in, Winter Fairy. Glad you made it. Hello, everyone. We are back at the Mysteries of Baroque for chapters 2 and 3. We are spent yesterday getting to know our new winter. We have decided on Lazarus de instead of Morgan de Winter. And this is what our stats are currently. We'll just go over them real quick before we get back into the story. So you can see for our faculties, we're pretty neutral on athletics, the occult, and combat. We've got a touch of insight. We're soundly a scientist and soundly a performance person, and we've got a touch of crime. Our demeanor, we are not really ruthless or compassionate, but we are a bit debonair, forthright or scheming, but we are reasoned. We have a touch of cynical, a touch of hedonistic, and not really courteous or blunt as it stands. So that's kind of our entire personality right there. As for life, we're very safe. Um, very safely 100% on our electricity, which is also our health and well being. We are 100% sane, which will take hits later, I'm sure. And we're mostly human, just slightly revenant, slightly undead. Yeah, that phone, man, it gets me every time. Nothing I can do about it. Sorry, guys. Um, but yes, as far as our pursuits and desires, we don't have a lot of interest in minions, sabotage, evidence as of yet. Our darkness has always been at 20%, but our interest in the theater has gone up. We have really appreciated the Grand Theater and all of their inhabitants. We're not any more revolutionary than we are lawful, and we don't really care about the neighboring country of Rico. We're fairly neutral on that point. As for the cast of Holofernes has brought us back to life, has given us a second chance, both to get our revenge against our greedy cousin Vincent, but also figure out how to move forward with our life. We have met Julian, the blind violinist. We have yet to meet Mona. We have yet to meet Raucus, and we have met the uh, uh, theater ingenue Chloe, whom we are becoming quite fond of. And we have yet to meet Nicholas. So that is, and we don't have much of a relationship with Julian. He's basically an acquaintance, but he exists. It's fine. So that is where we stand on there. So we will start once more with chapter 3, Gaslight. Baroque's insatiable thirst for coffee has long been noted by visitors from other places. Ever since coffee had been first introduced to the inner sea, the people of Baroque have been consuming coffee by the gallon. Baroque citizens argue that this is because coffee fuels the ceaseless industry of the city of dreadful night, allowing them to continue their labors long into the night. Outsiders sometimes quietly suggest that Baroque requires so much coffee because of its well-earned reputation as a city of fearful dreams and troubles by night. Its feverish and wild-eyed citizens imbibe insane quantities of coffee in order to put off sleep in their own personal nightly journey through the labyrinth for as long as possible. Whatever the reason, Baroque imports mountains of coffee beans from the Pirate Isles plantations every year. Some historians believe that the war with Rococo was only brought to an end because Rococo's aerial privateers had cut off the trade route supplying Baroque with coffee. Desperate to quell the riots that subsequently rose, Parliament agreed to begin negotiations with Rococo. Regardless, the importance of coffee to Baroque is evident in the multitude of coffee houses throughout the city. Do you share your city's taste for coffee? What do we think, chat? Are we coffee drinkers? Your thoughts. We have the options of, indeed, I drink great quantities of coffee every day. I enjoy a cup of coffee from time to time. I prefer a delicate green tea, or no, I find coffee to be vile black tar. So, absolutely, sometimes tea, please, or no. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Please tell me. Trav votes for it's vile black tar. Winter Fairy, I believe, votes 1. He is Coffee is a must. Coffee is love and life. Um, well, that leaves it up to me. And hmm, hmm. Well, I know that our first run we voted tea. We decided we had enough Brits in that tea was the thing. But I enjoy a cup of coffee from time to time. So we're just gonna vote because mwahaha, I've got the game. Each coffee house has its own character, its own clientele. The elegant Café Hoys by the Opera House caters to composers and music lovers. Roysters is frequented at all hours of day and night by the ink-stained journalists and writers of Cram Street. Noble's Clubhouse on Stoker Row has been claimed by the hunting and sporting set that is formed around the bluff and hardy Duke of Merryrink, the Queen's son and heir. Young Slaughters is the setting for many fierce debates and proposals of grand schemes and wild ideas by the dreamers and inventors of the Prometheus Society. Its rival, Old Slaughters, on Walpole Hill, is a place with a menacing but intriguing reputation as a favorite among the lords and ladies of the Baroque underworld, an above-ground neutral territory in Oubliette's subterranean gang wars, a place where dark and dreadful schemes are hatched and shadowy figures flit to and fro. Inside Old Slaughters. It is a chill, frosty morning as you quietly make your way inside Old Slaughters and seat yourself in one of the booths of the upper gallery. A short, stocky young woman with a white apron comes to take your order. Her tawny skin and close-cropped black curly hair suggest ancestry from the lands beyond the empty quarter. A dramatic half-smile seems always to linger about her lips, as though she is enjoying a secret known only to her. Without even looking at the blackboard menu, you request the special number 3. The waitress arches an eyebrow and excuses herself. She returns a few moments later, her apron removed and folded on her arm, and sits. I'm Mona, she says. Perhaps we can help one another. You heard about Mona and her unusual profession early on in your search for Holoferns. Your inquiries always seem to end with the same recommendation: talk to Mona, one of the waitresses at the Old Slaughters coffee house. It appears that this Mona trades in secrets, secrets of state and secrets of the street, trade secrets from the factories and workshops, and secrets regarding business deals and commercial voyages, secrets of affairs and crimes of passion. She must have a vast network of informers spread across the city. Your search for your creator has met with nothing but dead ends everywhere else, but if anyone can find Holoferns, it will be Mona. She listens thoughtfully as you explain what you are looking for, that you are looking for a certain scientist, one Dr. Holofernes. Yes, I know of her. Left Greylock under a cloud, took up residence in Barrow before certain incidences took place that required her to move on. I also know where she is now. Ooh, how do we respond to this little tidbit, this little tease of information? Do we demand that she tell us? Do you say that we will pay handsomely for that information, though I don't know what money we actually even have? Or do we wait for her to continue in silence? Tell me, chat, how do we respond to Mona? Everyone says two. We will pay handsomely for the information. All right then. I shan't require a payment. Instead, I have a proposal for you. See. Mona leans back and regards you, cocked to one side like a wary, watchful bird. You need my help, and I need yours. I need you to do something for me in the place Holofernes is. Will you? Do we agree immediately? Do we agree immediately but have no intention of keeping our word if it becomes inconvenient? Or do we ask to know more about Mona's task first? 1, 2, or 3. Agree, maybe not, or what in the world is this task? Or ask. Agree, maybe not, or ask. 1, 2, or 3. You tell me, chat. Tell me, tell me. Not like like we can afford anything else. Hmm. I mean, that's true. What do you think, Winder Fairy? All right. We just agree immediately. Of course, we're going to help Mona. She's helping us. Oh, hi, Count. Nice of you to join us. Well, we've already agreed, but here we are. Thank you for joining us, and I will look out for your answer next time. I'll do it. Good. Here's the story I have heard. 3 days ago, the police arrested a young female vagrant in a public house on the Western Road into Baroque. She'd been rambling about having killed God and brought the dead back to life. Assuming she was befuddled with gin or opium, they brought her back to their station and notified the asylum. She gave her name as Holofernes. That night, a black carriage from the Matchin Asylum came to collect her. The asylum is one of Baroque's largest and most notorious lunatic asylums. Baroque is a city that grinds down the nerves and the minds of many, driving them to madness with its ceaseless noise and crowds by day and by its nightmares at night. The majority of these luckless souls are eventually swept up into the looming Matcham Asylum in Aiken Woods beyond the city. On to Mona's plan. Once gaining access to the asylum would have been quite straightforward. The friends and relatives were free to visit them on certain days, and tours of the asylum were available to the paying public, on much the same principle as visits to menageries and cabinets of curiosity. Mona pauses, steepling her fingers. No longer. The asylum is under new management now, that of one Dr. Anthony Tausk. He claims any kind of visits from the outside world disrupts his work with his patients, and he has banned them completely, while having extensive renovations done on the asylum to rearrange according to certain theories of his own. Nobody has seen anything of any asylum inmate in the past 3 years. This is unfortunate for me as well as you. There is a certain patient in the asylum, known as inmate 4386, kept under lock and key in utmost secrecy. They are the only patient in the entire East Wing. I wish to know who they are and why such secrecy is warranted. I can help you get into Matcham Asylum to find your Dr. Holofernes. In exchange, I would have you do everything in your power to learn what you can of inmate 4386. Entering the asylum. I've been planning the operation for some time. From what I've heard of you, you have certain unusual skills. It is fortunate that our needs coincide. I believe you to be one of just a handful of individuals in Baroque capable of entering Dr. Tausk's stronghold. There are three possible means. The first is the wagon that comes down from the asylum every month to collect the food, drink, and supplies the doctor and his staff require. If you found a way to conceal yourself on the wagon, you might be able to slip inside the building while doing it. The second is approaching Dr. Tausk directly. Although he rarely leaves the asylum, he keeps up a correspondence with thinkers, fellow alienists, and learned people across the world. If you could successfully pass yourself as one of his correspondents, claimed to be visiting Baroque, and requested a visit to the asylum, Dr. Tausk might be persuaded to waive his rule against visitors. But Tausk is no fool. To deceive him, you'd need a firm grasp on the latest scientific theories. Bluffing and playing the part won't be enough. Mona looks at you. Then there's the final option. Of course, a certain kind of person can enter the asylum, does so every day. The mad. If you can simply feign madness and make a nuisance of yourself on some busy Baroque street, you'll be taken to the asylum or later, but you'll be locked in with the other inmates and watched by the guards. You may find getting out rather more difficult than getting in. Skills and qualities best. You should choose which approach to take, and I will help you as much as I can. One other possibility occurs to you. You have been spending some time lately with Chloe, the fragile and gifted young actor at the Grand Theater. You know her well enough to ask her for a favor, and you think you can trust her to be discreet about it. Perhaps she could give you some instruction on how to convincingly feign madness. How do we respond to all of this information? Do we ask tell us anything more? We ask if we know how we can trust her, or do we just get down to business? 1, 2, or 3. More, trust, or business? You guys tell me, chat. Trav says, let's not waste time. Number 3. Anyone else? Anyone else want to weigh in? I will wait for a consensus. Three's currently in the lead. Anyone else want to weigh in? Winter Fairy also says three. That seems to be in the lead. Anyone else? Looks like the threes have it then. Then let's get to business. Before we start, there is something else we should discuss. Secrets are my stock. I might have knowledge that you need, but a girl has to earn a living. If you wish, and there is more to know, we can trade secrets. I deal in secrets of all kinds, both big and small. Of course, most often, telling a secret means breaking a promise, violating a trust. But nobody ever said secrets came cheap, did they? Do you wish to trade any of your hard-won secrets to this broker of mysteries? We only have one. This run, the last run when we met Mona, we had a lot of secrets, but this time around, we only have the truth about our death and reincarnation. Or we could just not trust Mona with any of our secrets. But we do give her our story. She might give us more information on something in return, such as, oh, the location of our cousin Vincent, perhaps. So what do we do, chat? Do we tell Mona the truth about our death and reanimation, or do we just not trust Mona at all? One or two. Truth or no trust? You tell me. We are mainly an acquaintance right now. Let's check. We could have gotten up further. Yeah, we're just an acquaintance. We have no no relationship with her. On the other hand, she's an information leader of secrets. So secrets are her bag. And well, I mean, if more people knew that Dr. Holofern's Holofern procedure worked, then perhaps she wouldn't be considering. It's just a thought. Just a thought. Um, we also have this, our skills to get us into them. So we keep in mind that we only have these things to really work with. Athletics, occult, and combat are not our bag. Not at all. So, do we give Mona a secret in return for more information, or just refuse to trust her? Even though she's done us a solid by telling us where Holofernes is. I mean, yes, she wants us to do something in return, but I mean, that's fair. All right, we will trade secrets with Mona. So, tell Mona the truth about my death and reanimation. You tell Mona the full story of your awakening in Castle Barrow, of the Holofernes procedure and how you broke. She listens, one eyebrow delicately arched. I see now, she says, why you were on finding Dr. Holofernes. So a dead person walks the street of Baroque. We live in strange days. Mona's golden brown eyes shine as she considers the secrets you have whispered to her. It is clear that she is impressed by the lore you have brought her. We want to ask in return. Do we ask her about herself, which may in fact gain us some relationship with her? Do we ask about Dr. Tausk, the director of the asylum? Or do we ask about our cousin Vincent, the bastard who stole all our money by getting us killed? What do we want to know from Mona since she has accepted our secret? Trav votes 3. We should ask about our cousin. Anybody else want to weigh in? I'd like to hear from my chat. Winter Fairy agrees with 3. So far, the 3s have it. Anybody else? All right, I think we're going to go ask about our cousin. Oh, yes, Vincent Winter. A perennial failure all his life, but now the sun shines very brightly upon him indeed. He had a sizable fortune last year, but that was just the beginning of his successes. His investments all seemed to prosper, almost as though our boy had a sixth sense, while his competitors dropped like flies. Fires on their plague outbreaks, death in the family. De Winter has built up an overnight empire. He's in terra incognita, but most of his business interests are based in Baroque. Mona gives you a tight smile. I have a feeling, though, that with the likes of you asking questions about him, Mr. De Winter's luck might soon run out at last. Ooh, spicy. Yes, he is currently out of our reach. We are confined to Baroque at the moment. But we learned where he is at and what is going on with him, so that's good to know. Outside Old Slaughters. You leave the coffee house, mind intent on the problem before you. Gain access to the asylum. To use our criminal stat and try to steal in a wagon while the monthly supply load is being made. Notably, we only have a touch of criminals, so this might not work out for us. Do we try to pass ourselves off as one of Mr. Tausk's eminent correspondents and request an invitation? We may have enough science to pull that one off. We do know the job. We are an inventor, as it were. Or do we try to get ourselves consigned to the asylum as a lunatic, possibly asking Chloe to help us manage this? But we do have a decent performance as well, so this might be all we can do. Now, remember, in our first run of this story, we did, in fact, get ourselves consigned to the asylum, but we had gone all at the time, so that seemed like for the best. Yeah, we were also a lunatic. Yeah, exactly. So it's really between 1 and 2, chat, and Trav has already. Feel free to weigh in on what you think we should do. Steal, pass, or consigned? You tell me. The twos are in the lead. So unless somebody else wants to disagree, the twos are in the lead. Looks like the twos have it. We will try it off as a correspondent. Mona is able to find a suitable candidate, a certain Dr. Thorne of Mobius, who has been based of the Pirate Isles for the past 10 years, collecting botanical specimens. Dr. Thorne is voyaging back to the inner sea for a holiday now. Dr. Tausk knows little of Dr. Thorne personally. They have never. Mona will send a letter, supposedly from Dr. Thorne, explaining that they will be in Baroque for a few weeks and would like to visit Dr. Taus at the asylum. She suspects that this will be effective. By her estimation, although Tausk treasures his privacy, he is also intensely vain, and the esteem and admiration of his circle of scholarly correspondents is extremely important to him. She is right. A couple of days later, Dr. Tausk's reply arrives at the rooms. Dr. Thorne has given as an address. Dr. Thorne is warmly invited to stay with Dr. Tausk at the Matcham Asylum for as long as desired. The asylum's own black carriage will be dispatched to collect them. Everything is ready. Mona parts from you with a last word of warning. Be careful, my friend. Tausk is a highly intelligent man and a gifted alienist. Be careful that you are the one playing him and not vice versa. Inside the spider's parlor. Ooh. New stuff, new stuff. The carriage, an opulent, sleek black vehicle that moves noiselessly through the city streets, comes to pick you up. A hulking, short-spoken attendant who introduces himself briefly as Quinn Land before relapsing into silence, opens the door for you. In the letter you and Mona composed, you already accounted for your unusual attire with a reference to a vividly scarifying pox of the Pirate Isles, so your costume passes without comment. A day's journey through Aiken Woods, outside Baroque city limits, and Matcham Asylum looms over you, a brooding walled structure with a neoclassical facade of pillars, two wings extending out like the wings, perched on a hill looking down over a sea of trees. Grim statues are mounted on either side of the gate, which creaks open to admit the wagon. Raving madness on the right and melancholy madness on the left. Quinlan leads you across the cobbled courtyard into the main building, through an entrance hall, up a grand flight of stairs at the back, and through a narrow twin rat's nest of passages. Your first impression is how cold it is inside the asylum. There is a bone-deep chill in the air. It is also poorly lit. Sputtering gas jets mounted on the walls provide pale, ineffectual pools of light that only serve to size the gulfs of darkness between them. The darkness makes the asylum's puzzling layout seem even more maze-like and disorienting. Passages turn at strange and unnatural angles. The blank walls loom out of nowhere. The corridors are by turns cavernously wide and claustrophobically tight. Quinlan navigates his way through the warren without difficulty, eventually depositing you outside a red baize door. Do we boldly swing the door open and stride in, ready to face the mysterious Dr. Tausk? Do we softly knock on the door, as is polite? Or do we recite a quick silent prayer to Saint Ariadne, patron saint of sanity, before entering? Goodness. What shall we do, chat? Bold, soft, or prayer? Trav votes for 1. To be bold. Be bold, but not too bold, lest your heart's blood shall run cold. Very good advice. What is the consensus, chat? Shall we be bold or for something else? Winter Fairy agrees with the boldness. Looks like the ones have it again. All right. We will boldly swing open the door and stride inside, ready to face the mysterious Dr. Tausk. Beyond the red door is the director's study. Like the rest of the asylum, it is half plunged in darkness. It is hard to judge the room's dimensions. It resembles nothing so much as a dark void with a few points of light where the lamps have been hung. Silvery but discordant music from an unknown source fills the room. Something else strikes you about the room. The lamps hanging on the wall are oil lit, unlike the gas jets everywhere else. Why is Dr. Tausk's study apparently the only room in the asylum not lit by gas? Dr. Tausk is waiting for you by the drinks cabinet. He turns and smiles as you enter. He is a fair, slight man, fastidiously well dressed. His most striking features are his broad white forehead, from which the hair has been combed back, and his large blue eyes. There is a brilliant, irresistible intensity to that cool blue gaze. Ah, Dr. Thorne, I've looked forward to this meeting with great pleasure. May I get you a drink? Over the next few minutes, Dr. Tausk quizzes you on a whole range of scientific topics, asking you for your opinions on the latest proposals for a perpetual motion machine put before the Promethean, asking you about your research on marine life among the Pirate Isles, on the latest programs written for the Difference engine, and discoveries of new ores in Terra Incognita. You cannot tell, based on his blandly smiling face, whether he suspects you to be an impostor or is trying to catch you out, or whether he simply takes pleasure in trying to make his guests uncomfortable and ill at ease. However, you are able to answer his questions with flair and elegance. Your already exceptional memory and insight have improved extraordinarily since the Holofernes procedure. You seem to dazzle Dr. Tausk with the astonishing breadth and range of your ideas, with your daring and unconventional theories. At length, he desists from further questions, lifting his tumbler to you in a mock salute. Forgive me, Dr. Thorne, but even your letters, as magnificent as they are, do not do your fascinating mind justice. You are in a position to direct the conversation now. What do you wish to talk to Tausk about? The Matcham Asylum itself, his patients, or his theories? What shall we ask about, chat? Asylum, patients, or theories? We do not know if we will get multiple questions here. This is all new territory for us. So choose wisely. 1, 2, or 3. Asylum, patients, or theories. I will take either the number or the keyword? Let me know. Winter Fairy wants to know about his theories. Does the rest of chat agree? That is the question. Trav is more curious about the asylum itself, but he'll take theories as well. If anyone else wants to weigh in and tip the scales in the favor of 3 or 1, they're welcome to do so. I think it's interesting. This is all territory we've never covered before, and the way that Choice of Games does their games is that we cannot go back on any of our choices, but we can play again. So we know the way to get to this point again if we ever should wish to. But at the moment, we may only have one question, or might get all 3. I'm not entirely certain. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with his theories. I think I can understand why the asylum is set up the way he has it. If we ask about his patients, even though we do have an inmate we are wanting to know about, we might give ourselves away. But asking about his theories, taking an interest in his science, might ingratiate us a little bit further. So I think that's the smart play here. My theories. Well, I am in a particular position for a mad doctor. Sorry. I'm in a peculiar position for a mad doctor. You see, I'll use such terms as madness and insanity for sake of convenience. I do not truly believe in such things. Or perhaps I believe it is better to say that it is all relative. Madness is nothing more nor less than the act of inconveniencing those around one. But those considered mad often possess startling insights. He glances at you. Perhaps you are familiar with the work of Franz Mabuse. Franz Mabuse of Cary has made a name for himself as the prophet of animal magnetism. As you understand it, Mabuse's theory is that an invisible continuous magnetic fluid runs through all living things. Practitioners of his art can use the power of channeled and directed by gestures and intense concentration to send subjects into deep trances and ecstatic convulsions, to influence and control them. Mabuse moves around the world with his 2 somnambulist assistants, putting on demonstrations of the new science of animal magnetism. Mabuse has been criticized by the church, although there are uncomfortable parallels in Mabuse's practices and the tradition of the hypnagogue. The hypnagogue is church. Once elected to the seat of St. Theseus in Glasstown, he is immediately placed under heavy sedation and spends the rest of his life in a state of deep and dream. His murmurs and cryptic mutterings are noted down by the acolytes always placed around his throne-like bed and compiled into new volumes of church doctrine. According to the theologians, the hypnagogue is now roaming the labyrinth like St. Theseus before him, searching for the souls of the lost and guiding them out to the place of safety where he will return. Mabuse's insights are not truly so different from the traditional church teachings of the hypnagogue. They both acknowledge that the gateway to insight is a trance-like dream state. Have you never stirred from sleep and for a moment no longer been sure of the distinction between dreams and reality? This is the blessed condition, the sense of terrifying and boundless possibility, in which the mad live all their lives. Yes, an intriguing religious practice indeed. Enter Quinlan. Not sure, but either way. Further conversation is brought to a halt when Quinlan enters. Approaching Tausk, he whispers in his ear, "You catch the wing." Tausk smiles apologetically. "Please excuse me, Dr. Thorne. One of my patients needs me. Quinlan will show you to your room. I do hope to continue discussion tomorrow over breakfast." The director hurries away. Quinlan leads you off in the opposite direction through an even more confusing and headache-inducing network of passages until you arrive at a small guest chamber. Its Spartan comforts are illuminated by a hissing gas jet. Quinlan silently pads away to effect to make yourself at home, sitting motionless on the hard bed with eerie patience until the asylum clock strikes midnight. Then you leave the room to prepare to investigate the asylum. Midnight in the Macam Asylum. Whew. The nighttime asylum is a deeply eerie place. Passages crisscross and double back on one another, turn off at in disconcerting angles, or suddenly end in blank walls. The steps on the stairways all subtly differ in the size from each other, meaning that just traversing a flight of stairs is a lurching, vertiginous experience. The hissing of the gas jets on the walls is a maddening, ever present distraction, just on the edge of hearing and yet impossible to shut out. The longer you spend moving through these twisted halls, the more a paranoid sense grows that you are observed, stalked, as the Minotaur stalked St. Theseus in the labyrinth. Is this truly a place where the mad are sent to recover? It seems designed to make completely the reverse effect on its inmates. Despite your disorientation and nagging sense of unease, you manage to get a grasp on the layout of the asylum. The west wing, behind the green baize door, where the inmates and keepers stay, is off limits to you at present. You can hear conversation on the other side of the green door, and no doubt some keepers will remain up all night to watch over the inmates. You cannot risk detection by going there. Dr. Tausk's study and rooms are on an upper floor in the center of the building. The east wing, where Mona says 4386 can be found, appears dark and empty. Finally, you discover a curious black trapdoor at the back of the entrance hallway. It is worn from regular use. Just looking at it sends a chill through your spine. Whatever dark mystery the asylum holds, you sense that it lurks underneath the door. Hollow ferns may be in danger down there. Do you even have time to investigate other areas of interest? Where will you investigate? We did promise Mona that we would find out about the person in the East Wing. We have two routes to discover who 4386 is. We could go to the East Wing and try to talk to them ourselves. Or we could go to Dr. Tausk's study and see what notes he has on everything and anything. Or we could further the plot, as we well know, because we did this the first time round, and just simply go underground underneath the trap door and find Dr. Holofernes there. We have meta knowledge of that. But I believe that we should either decide between the study and the East Wing. So I'm not going to accept any votes for 3. I will only accept 1 or 2, study or wing. Please, tell me, where should we go? The study or the East Wing? Either direction that we go, we will find new things. Thank you, Trav. I appreciate you seeing my point about the study. Chat, where should we go? You tell me. Ooh, Winter Fairy was going to say 2, but now she thinks 1 is a good idea. Does the rest of chat agree? You guys tell me. All right, it looks like we're going to the study to see what we can find about what is going on here. Dr. Tao's study is a cheerless and Spartan as the rest of the asylum, but it is kept with scrupulousness according to a clear and rigid plan. Dr. Tausk is obviously a man who places great importance on order and control. You spend some time meticulously kept patient files on the drawers of his desk, written up in his immaculate copperplate. The patients are referred to only by number, though there is no mention of inmate 4386. The cold, fussy precision of Dr. Tausk's writing makes the contents even more shocking. Dr. Tausk reveals the exact nature of his work at the asylum in unflinching detail. It appears that, from the first, he has had no interest in actually trying to cure the patients in his care. Instead, he has abused his power over them to test his theories on the human brain and to satisfy his monstrous cravings for power over others. He coolly relates how he has used his power as mesmerist to play with the minds of the inmates, trying to false memories or induce compulsive tics of behavior. He relates the details of certain cruel psychodramas he has arranged for Maculum inmates, forcing them to watch or play out scenes from their worst nightmares or their most shameful fantasies. He notes the exact combination of hallucinogenic drugs he has secretly fed his most fragile and troubled patients in order to observe their reaction. Again and again, he speaks of his need for greater control, for his desire for deeper and all more persuasive mastery over his patients. A twisted mind. You have learned all that you can from this eerie place. It is time to move on. Where will we go? I think now is the time to go to the East Wing, because clearly we will not find out about the patient we need to find out about unless we go there. What do you think, chat? Shall we go and see what the patient in the East Wing is all about? Winter Fairy says East Wing. Trav, do you agree? Anyone? Anyone else? Feel free to let me know. All right. To the East Wing we go. Ooh, an achievement. The inmate in the East Wing. Fantastic. The East Wing is dark and silent. You are making your way down a passage when a hoarse scream breaks the quiet from somewhere farther down the passage. It is a horrifying noise, unmistakably the sound of a human being in utter terror. Looking around you, you see a bobbing candlelight hurrying along some distance behind you. You conceal yourself behind a curtain and go by. It is Quinlan, the hulking and silent attendant who brought you to the asylum. His face is set in its usual grimly expressionless mask, and he is moving hastily down the passage towards the source of the screams. Following cautiously along some distance behind, you see your quarry open a door along the passageway. Quinlan! You hear a desperate scream as he shuts the door behind him. You apply your eye to a crack in the door to see into the dimly lit room beyond. It is larger and more ornately decorated than the rest of the asylum's Spartan accommodation. However, the furnishings, although good and costly, have a somber and even funeral quality to them. They are all in ebony and wrought black iron, after the style of the first Baroque Empire 2 centuries ago. The only concession to the modern age is one of the asylum's ubiquitous gas jets set on the wall, casting a murky and dirty yellow light that only seemed to do more to fill the room with oppressive and sinister shadows. A huge four-poster bed, its curtains in purple and black, occupies the center of the room. A stocky man is sitting bolt upright in the bed, his nightshirt in disarray, sweat glistening on his face. His eyes are so wide with fear that all you can see are the white. But it is not his obvious terror that most shocks you. You recognize this man. His is one of the best-known faces in Baroque, second only to that of his mother, the Queen. The sole occupant of the East Wing, Mona's mysterious inmate 4386, is none other than Prince Alfred, Duke of Meryrink, son and heir to Queen Margaret of Baroque. The madness of Prince Alfred. The Duke addresses Quinlan with an air of supplication. Quinlan, I had the dream again, so vivid, like an actuality playing in my head. Quinlan, you can't imagine what it's like. I know operators are sending these things into my head. The Duke looks at him, furtive and fearful. It's the vendetta. I know it. They've sent operators from Rococo to torment me. I'll put bounties on their heads. Oh, Quinlan, dear Quinlan, won't you send for Dr. Tausk? He can help me. He's the only one who can help me. Doctor's busy, Quinlan grunts. He'll come when he's done. But I need him now, Duke whines. You are considering the implications of your discovery. Is this a terrible danger to Baroque? A great opportunity to strike a blow against the monarchy? An irresistible piece of gossip? Or just another scene of madness and horror in this dark and foreboding place? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Danger, opportunity, gossip, or madness. What do we think of this, chat? What do we think of this? Trav says 4. Anybody else want to weigh in? I'm happy to hear from you all. Winterfairy says 3. This is just a piece of gossip. So between 3 or 4, what do I think? Since it looks like Chad is leaving it up to me. I think I agree. This is just another scene of madness and horror in this dark place. The Duke of Meyring has a reputation as a bluff, jovial sporting type, the kind of aristocrat who disdains books and cares but fox hunting, fishing, and shooting. Indeed, he is more often than not away from the capital on hunting expeditions, although you now suspect his extended absences from the public eye are really due to his obvious mental instability. As much as the Duke, Prince Alfred, is mocked in the radial press and by the public for his gracelessness and lack of culture, the truth is that many people find something reassuring about the strength, animal spirits, and coarse vigor of his personality. His mother is elderly and known to be in ill health. She rarely makes public appearances and has handed over most of her responsibilities to her ministers instead of living a sterile, dreamlike life of ritual within the walls of the Montsalvet Palace. In her absence, Prince Alfred has become a figurehead to many, a symbol of Baroque's continued energy and strength even after the losses of the war with Rococo. But you are watching this symbol of national pride and virility tremble with senseless fear in Matcham Asylum, babbling madness to a keeper and pathetically begging for the presence of a man who can bring him relief. There is no question that if the truth of the Duke's hunting expeditions got out, it would shake Baroque to its foundations. You have uncovered a secret perhaps even more dangerous than most self suspected. The question is, what do you know about it? You have been so occupied with your discovery that you only just realize now that Quinlan is preparing to leave. You have no time to return to your Alk hiding and have only moments to act. What will you do? Do we attempt to overpower Quinlan as he emerges from the room? Do we attempt to conceal ourselves as best we can in the passageway? Or do we try to pull ourselves up on the lintel of the door to the Duke's room? So we have combat, criminal, or athletics, I think, is what our 3 choices are. And the only thing we have even a slight chance in is criminal. we could attempt. Trav votes for 1 or the man. Yeah, Trav. Well, running was not up until this point one of our options, so I can only make the story go the way that the options allow. But yeah, Trav votes for 1. So what does the rest of chat think? 1. All right, we will try to overpower emerges from the Duke's room. You lunge at Quinlan as he opens the door, but the big man moves with surprising speed. He whips his head aside to avoid a blow and grabs you roughly before slamming you into the doorframe. You hear a sickening crack as you sit to unconsciousness and cannot tell whether it is the frame or your skull that has broken. Uh-oh, we've gotten ourselves in trouble. And a dark awakening. When you return to consciousness, you find yourself strapped into a chair inside a spherical glass. A human form lies sprawled out on the floor of the chamber beneath you. It takes you a moment to recognize it as Holofernes by her distinctive silver-white halo of hair. Beyond the glass walls, you see that you are located in some kind of huge cavernous subterranean chamber. The chamber is attached to a massive wooden machine like a church organ, fed from copper pipes by a collection of barrels on all sides. Sails and wooden windmill blades festoon the top of the machine, beginning to move and dance. You sense that Dr. Tausk must be operating the machine, using it to drug you and break your will. There is a hiss in the chamber. You see a valve open above you twitch open, and a smoky, heady scent fills your nostrils. Your head begins to swim and pound, your concentration slipping away from you, as bright spots of color begin to leap and dance before your eyes. You are conscious of an overwhelming desire to simply let yourself fall into this colorful chaos, to let yourself sleep and dream as the scents and colors seem to beg of you. Somewhere deep inside you, a rumbling voice seems to speak, shaking your body with its force. You are in grave danger. Do submit to this machine. Let me share my strength with you. How will you attempt to resist the machine's influence? Do we simply accept the mysterious voice's offer of help so that we may survive this ordeal unscathed? Do we combat mental chaos by focusing on logic and reason? Do we recite a prayer to Saint Ariadne, the patron saint of sanity? Do we try to draw strength from laughter? Do we dig our nails into our hands and focus on the pain? Do we draw strength from our imagination, or do we simply cease breathing until the machine's bellows have exhausted? So we help, logic, prayer, laughter, pain, imagination, breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Trav seems to imply that we should try 7. That we should simply cease breathing and the machine's bellows have exhausted. What does the rest of that think? How shall we survive the machinations of this machine and the gases is going? All right, we looks like everyone wants to try number 7. Simply cease breathing until the machine's bellows have exhausted. Here we go. You are dead, sustained by the electricity of the Holofernes procedure. Perhaps breathing is for you, not essential as it is for the living. You make the experiment of simply stopping your breath in and out. You try holding your breath, but soon the blood is pounding in your ears and your vision is blurring. You are forced to gasp for air, inhaling a lungful of gas in the process. You still need to breathe, it seems, or perhaps you don't, truly, but cannot convince yourself of it. You feel the machine grinding away at you, pumping bellowfuls of its maddening gases into your lungs. You know that Tao's trying to batter you into to turn you into another of the machine's puppets. You manage to resist that, but in the process, deep scars are formed in your mind. Uh-oh. Tausk is not ready for me. You can hear the whirring, grinding, and clanking of the machine gradually come to a halt. Tausk obviously believes you are in control. You wait as he comes into view and opens the chamber up, grinning at you with undisguised relish. Now, let's get some answers, he says as he begins to undo the straps that hold you to the chair. Confident of your docility, the moment you are free, you grab the ace by the throat and drive him into the glass wall of the chamber. It holds, but Tausk is not knocked out cold. Holofernes. After taking a moment to catch your breath, you lean over Holofernes, slumped and unconscious inside the machine's glass chamber, and turn her over. Holofernes stirs and looks at you blankly. You show, and a dim spark of recognition seems to stir. Lazarus? Her voice is slurred, her pupils wide, like those of an opium eater. You have arrived too late. Dr. Tausk has already used the machine on Holofernes. You can only hope that her exposure was limited and that once you have brought her out of the asylum, Holofernes' scientific knowledge will return. Otherwise, you are doomed. You examine her more closely. Holofernes' ordeal will leave her. She will gradually regain her will over time, but she will always be a little slower than she was, and will never quite recover the brilliance of her earlier insights and ideas. Yep, that did not go well for us at all. The machine art. You regard the machine before you. Make much sense of the machine's bizarre controls, and you need to be on your way before any of the asylum's keepers discover your presence. Leaving the asylum. I don't know, Trav. That's interesting. You arrive back in Baroque just as a new day is dawning. A hack burns away to the Grand Theater. One last loose end remains. Mona's interest in inmate 4386. You were successful in the startling truth about inmate 4386. He is in fact Prince Alfred, Duke of Merrybank, and heir to the throne of Baroque. With this knowledge, there will be major consequences. So, we have a choice. Do we honor our promise and tell Mona the truth? Do we use it as a blow against the monarchy and tell Baroque's radical press? Or do we decide this secret is far too dangerous and we will just lie and suppress the information ourselves? One, two, or three, chat. Truth, press, or lie? You tell me. Apparently, we are telling Mona the truth, and we'll let Mona decide what to do with that particular insanity. Mona's eyes widen as you tell her the full story over an early morning dish of coffee at Old Slaughter's. This is extraordinary, she says. For once, her faintly mocking half smile is gone, and sincere admiration is. Whatever else you are, you're a hell of an operative. I need people like you. I hope you'll be working for me again. She turns away, then pauses. Perhaps you're wondering what I'll do with the secret. I know that you know its value, and I appreciate the fact that you still honored our deal. I can't tell you much, not yet, but you should know, because it matters to you. I don't want money or power. That is not what this is about. She pins her apron back on, and moments later she is once again making her rounds through the coffee house, leaving you to ponder her cryptic parting words. Back to the Grand. You return to the Grand Theater just as the sun is rising. You are weary from the long night's work and still dwelling on the horrors you witnessed with the asylum. There is something reassuring about the mysterious old theater after your night of madness and mayhem. Perhaps in your lair beneath the clock tower, and some peace and respite from the nightmares of the asylum. Holofernes awaits. Maybe she will have the answers you seek. End of chapter. Whew! Chapter 3 was a doozy. So, let's check our stats and see where we ended up. It looks like our faculties have not changed. We're still pretty mediocre on occult, athletics, occult, and combat. Still just slight in insight and crime, and performance has not taken a hit. We have become debonair, forthright, and reasoned, very cynical, bit hedonistic, and everything else is just kind of neutral. Life, our sanity has taken a blow. We have scars on our brain now, and we shall see how lessening our sanity in this way will affect us later. But whoo boy, really did a number. As for our pursuits and our desires, we are slightly more in favor of Rococo. Not entirely certain, but we've gone Rococo. Everything else, and we've gone down in research. I'm not really. Maybe we used up some of our research ability. Not certain why, but we've gone down in research. So this is what we're at now. As for the cast, Holofernes is still fond of us. Mona has become a bit of our friend. Chloe is still our friend as well. And everybody else is either we haven't met them yet or they are an acquaintance. So we are at chapter 4, The People of the Abyss. Yes, it looks like Mo has Rococo links. Interesting. May in fact be a Rococo agent. We don't know. Something is going on. That's for certain. This is going to hurt, Holofernes announces cheerfully. All the more so because we have no laudanum. You are once again lying strapped down on an operating table. Holofernes has donned a leather apron and is brandishing a scalpel. You are in the makeshift laboratory that Holofernes has set up in the cellars of the theater, a place of dark shadows and dripping water. The scientist has recovered from her experiences in the asylum to a certain extent, although it seems to have made her even more eccentric than ever. You have explained the situation, and she has agreed to examine you and try to determine the cause of your blackouts. Holofernes' attempt to transport her to Barrow met with disaster. The carters she engaged heard rumors of events in Barrow and turned on her, destroying her equipment and her money in possession. All of the money in her possession. She was forced to make her way to foot. Fortunately, she had equipment stored in Baroque, which she has had transported to the Grand Tour. Holofernes runs the scalpel down your arm, drawing a thin red line. She watches as the cut seals itself up. As I suspected, she says with obvious satisfaction, were you aware that your body regenerated wounds? You shake your head. Holofernes frowns. It makes no sense, though. None of my calculations predicted such a thing. Is it possible that even I don't fully understand the Holofernes procedure? She shakes her head. A lot of things don't seem as clear to me since the... A lot of things. It's like there's a fog in my mind. The manic glint has gone from Holofernes' eyes. She casts her head down, continuing to mumble to herself and occasionally jerk convulsively, as though still in the grip of the machine. So, how do we respond to Holofernes? Do we say, I'm sure you'll find yourself doing better soon? Well, I need you to part that fog, or it wasn't easy getting you out of asylum, you better be able to help me. Do we show concern? Do we show, are we direct, or are we an asshole? You guys tell me. 1, 2, or 3. Concern, direct, asshole. Winter Fairy says concern. We do like Holofernes. We've liked her both runs. She brought us back from the dead. How could you not like that? And like, I don't know how to be ungrateful to that. So even I will vote. I'm sure you'll find yourself doing better soon. I hope for both our sakes. She gives a weak smile. Holofernes yawns. I need sleep. I need to sleep so much at the moment. Come back in the morning. Maybe I'll have more of an idea then. The morning you are once again down in the underground cellar where Holofernes has established her laboratory. She looks a little better as the results of a night's sleep. I've been thinking, she announces. I'd come to the distasteful conclusion. I believe your reanimation was not solely the result of the Holofernes procedure being applied. Of course, the procedure worked, but it only worked. None of the other cadavers I experimented on responded. You were an exception. I'm starting to suspect this because of the manner of your death. At first, I assumed that your captors tortured you before, but now I don't think they were torturing you at all. The memory of agonizing pain rises up inside you. How do you respond to this? Both the memory and her assertion. Can we assure her that we were being tortured? Do you ask what the devil is this supposed to mean, or what was it if not torture? Are we determined? Have we determined that our memory is correct? Do we ask, or do we ask what? 1, 2, or 3, chat. You tell me. Good, fair point, Trav. She have a point somewhere, so we should at least follow that up, I guess. Is chat agreed on this? Number 3. So far, it's number 3. Chat, you tell me. Are we going with 3, or does anyone else want to weigh in? Looks like we're going with number 3. What was it, if not torture? That is the question, Holofernes continues. I believe that their torture must have been a bizarre surgery. They did something to you, implanted something in you, or were trying to. I don't know what, but whatever they did to you caused you to react differently to the procedure than any of my other subjects. Until I understand exactly what they did to you, I won't use the procedure or deal effectively with those blackouts of yours. I need to find out more about how you died. Try starting with the police detective who handled your case. Anything you can dig up will be of value, as I often say to the resurrection men. You can reply, there is a rap at the door to the laboratory. Mr. Merritt enters. I hope you are enjoying your new accommodation. I am Mr. Merritt, the Grand Theatre's proprietor, he says courteously to Holofernes. The two did not meet when Holofernes arrived at the theater. She is now drinking with him in obvious fascination. You are quite simply the most hideous creature I have ever beheld. Dr. Holofernes, I know you've already met my associate Lazarus. May I inspect you? Mr. Merritt does not seem to appear offended by the scientist's bluntness. Your directness is most refreshing, Dr. Holofernes. Alas, I cannot submit to a full inspection just now. I came down to inform you both that pressing business is taking me away from the theater today. If you need anything during my absence, please speak with the stage manager. You know that it's time for you to take as well. Holofernes can do nothing more for you just now, and besides, it would be worth learning more about the people who abducted and tortured you, their motives, and their dark alliance with your cousin, on your own behalf. They deserve retribution no less than Vincent. A couple hours' research and discreet inquiry, and you learn that your murder was handled by a certain Inspector Ross of Darvolia House, the detective branch of the Baroque Metropolitan Police. What will we do? Do we try to be direct and arrange a meeting with Ruckus, which is what we did last time, I might add? Do we get into contact with Mona to see if she has any information on the detective? Do we rely on our own intelligence network to find out what we can about the detective? Or do we break into his office at Darvolia House to find our own case file? I'm going to say that since we've already done number one before, we should probably avoid it. So I will vote 3 and 4. Mona, intelligence, or break-in, or crime. Mona, intelligence, or crime. What shall we do? We have dabbled in. We have a tiny bit of it. It may not go over. We do have a tiny bit of it. We are in good with Mona, guys. She might be able to tell us something. And we did just give her the biggest secret ever, so she may make us pay for the information with a secret of our own. Or we could attempt to find out things on our own terms. One, two, three, or four. Chat, 2, 3, or 4. You tell me. Trav votes 2, relying on our own intelligence network. Oh, sorry. It is 3. You meant Mona. All right. Sorry. I stopped even regarding 1 as a vote. Yes, sure. We'll go talk to Mona then. Sorry, Trav. It looks like the Monas have it. So we're gonna go with that because I'm embarrassed that I can't count. I just lost it for a moment. You sent a note to Mona at Old Slaughter's asking her if she knows anything of Inspector Ruckus. After a few hours, Mona has sent you a detailed dossier on the inspector with her compliments. You learn that Inspector Ruckus is regarded as an exceptional detective, at once honest, dedicated, and gifted. Strangely, however, promotion has eluded him. He is in his middle years, and he has not progressed beyond inspector rank, despite the large number of cases he's closed. Mona has noted that this may be connected to his family history, referring to the section of the dossier. This reveals that Ruckus was once married, but that his wife, an officer in the Baroque army, was killed during the war with Rococo. It also reveals that Ruckus has a son, Titus, who seems to have gone to the bad after his mother's death, developing opium eating and gambling habits, among others, plunging himself deeper and deeper into debt in order to support these indulgences. Eventually, he broke into Lord Thallow's place, Macott House on Stoker Row, to rob it, and was discovered by Lord Thallow's daughter Elizabeth, whom he murdered. Ruckus himself arrested his son for murder. Titus was quietly consigned to a life of imprisonment on the island prison of Paranesi, where he soon died during an outbreak of the Crimson Death. Since then, Raucus's career has languished. Before that, his rise was meteoric. The poor detective. He's so sad. We never knew in our last adventure. He was so taken with us. Thallo's place. Mona notes that somebody has gone to considerable efforts to hush up the story of Raucus's murderous son, Titus. Raucus himself would be an obvious suspect, but he seems to lack the influence in the police force to arrange such a thing. Perhaps it was high-ranking officers within the Metropolitan Police concerned about the potential damage to their institution's name. In any case, Mona notes that it was far from easy to learn these details, and Riley suggests that you owe her a drink, at the very least. Her tone is characteristically tongue-in-cheek, but you know Mona well enough to suspect that going to this amount of trouble for you indicates a considerable degree of esteem. Ooh, we're on her good side. The following morning, as you stride down Walpole Hill, an urchin approaches you and thrusts a note into your hand. He scurries away afterwards, ignoring your questions. The note is written in a steady, plain hand. I believe you have been making inquiries about me in the Winter murder case. We need to converse. Meet me at the statue of Saint Electra in Shelby Gardens at noon today. All right, Winter Fairy. Go safe. Go safely. We will love to see you back when you return. And of course, give him all our love. Goodness, the things that we've learned about the inspector this time has been amazing. Anyway. You and Raucus could continue to circle and observe each other from a distance indefinitely, but you see the sense in bringing this dance to a close. Noon finds you by the Electra statue in Shelby Gardens, awaiting the police inspector, a dark silhouette in the cold, thick white fog. Meeting the inspector. Soon after the clock strikes 12, a tall figure approaches through the swirling fog. Inspector Raucus is a tall, broad-shouldered man with a short-cut hair touched with silver around the temples. His features have the reserved melancholy of a knight of the chessboard, but his eyes are clear and watchful. He wears a knee-length rumpled brown coat. He stands stock still on seeing you, pure amazement playing across his features. "It is you," he whispers. "Your letter to Winter. You're alive! Oh God, you're alive!" Respond to the poor detective. Do we respond distrustfully? No, I'm not really De Winter. Do we respond truthfully? I know, it's terrifying, but I assure you I'm all right. Do we respond sarcastically? Yes, yes, I'm alive. Hooray for me. Now pull yourself together, man. Or do we respond politely? Indeed, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Trav votes for 4. Winterfairy cannot vote at all, so if anyone else wishes to weigh in, I'm actually rather amused by number 4 myself. We may, in fact, have used it last time, but I do enjoy a particular one. It just makes me giggle, as you can tell. Indeed, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Actually, no, Trav, you're probably correct. We may have done 2 last time. That does sound familiar. I'm more for 4. So I guess we're going with 4. Indeed, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated because it pleases me so. Raucus takes a breath, shaking his head in astonishment. I suspected, he said slowly. I knew of Dr. Holofernes and her research, and then your tomb was violated just after she left town. I went to Barrow, but the castle burned down there, and heard stories about the scarred corpse some of them saw being brought into the castle. And then a masked person appears in Baroque, asking questions about De Winter, about Holofernes. All the pieces were there, but can such things be? Raucus is clearly shaken by the realization that the person whose murder he's been investigating has been brought back to life. You may need to handle him with care. How will you approach your conversation? Do we slap him? Do we try to enlist his sympathy by describing our suffering? Are we direct with him, which is what I believe we did last time? Or will we make light conversation until his shock eases? Trav votes for 4. We make light conversation until his shock eases. We do know his preference for directness. He does appreciate a direct person. And if we want to flirt with him a bit, that would be the way to go. Knowing that he's been married before, that his wife has died, that his son became a murderer and has also similarly died, the man has been through some shit, and we liked him this time too, though admittedly more like a brother than a love interest, but we liked him last time too. Do we want to like him again this time? We have options this time. We did not do as many options last time. But it looks like number 4, that we will make light conversation until his shock eases, is the way. You sense that Ruckus has just suffered a profoundly unsettling shock, one that he was undermined his entire sense of the laws of nature. The best thing to do is to calm him down by speaking of mundane and everyday things while he adjusts to the new reality. You speak of the foggy weather, of the Chancellor of Cadaver Gesorum's upcoming visit to Baroque. You talk about the latest dance craze in St. Hippolytus, of the hunting in Aiken Woods, and of the chances of the Terra Incognita Ulama team. Marcus says little, but you can tell your approach is working, that he is gradually accepting that the person before him, speaking socially of everyday matters, is indeed Lazarus de Winter. For the next hour, you and Rockus sit on a bench in the fog-bound Shelby Gardens, discussing your case. Rockus nods grimly as you explain your conviction that Vincent is behind your murder. I had my suspicions of Mr. Vincent de Winter, he says, especially after he inherited incognita fortune, but I couldn't prove any. I was getting somewhere when my superior shut down the investigation. I don't know why. This explains that just when he was ordered to cease looking into the case, he had been making progress in his investments in Oubliette. He believes that it is possible that the location on which your body was found was far from dental. He suspects that, after you were taken from Radcliffe Terrace, you some dark, unfrequented section of Oubliette, and that is where the torture was carried out. How do we respond to that information? Do we once again feel a jolt of pain and anguish as we recall our final moments? Do we feel rage and frustration as we think of the way we were tortured and mutilated? Or do we keep ourselves detached, allowing the memories to wash over us without any pain? So, pain, rage, or detached? 1, 2, or 3. How shall we respond to this piece of information? Your Dune reference endears you to me, Trav. Yes. I prefer detached as well. Fear is the mind killer. Fear, but fear itself, after all. Unless anyone else wishes to weigh, I think we'll go with 3. Detachment. Oubliette is filled with corners and bolt holes, Rockus explains after a brief pause. And there's more. The knife wounds on your body aren't randomly inflicted. They follow a definite obsessive. I've seen such things before, with murderous cults, sects, and secret societies. I believe that the group working with your cousin Vincent has had some religious agenda of their own in inflicting such suffering on you. And there are more cults in Oubliette than anywhere in Baroque's surface. The peculiar people, the Carpathian Rite, even some followers of Apollyon. Maybe it's the darkness or the never-ending noise down there, but that pit seems to breed them, each more crazy than the last. What do we ask? Do we ask about the peculiar people? Do we ask about the Carpathian Rite? Do we ask about the followers of Apollyon? Or do we ask if this might be an attempt on Vincent's part to mislead the investigation? I do believe we asked one last time. It was either that or we asked about the followers of Apollyon. You want to know about the peculiar people? I want to know about the peculiar people too. Let's find out about the peculiar people. They worship something called the great god Morlock. Some say they feed children into the oubliette. Rockus shakes his head. I've never found any evidence of that, though God knows enough children die in the factories and forges of oubliette every year. They're strange as their name, but they've always struck me as harmless. Rockus proposes that the two of you return to oubliette, to the location where your body was found. Perhaps by going there, you might see that triggers some flash memory. Rockus has examined the scene and questioned the locals in the area repeatedly, but you might also be able to uncover some clue that eluded him. He proposes that you meet this evening at the entrance to the oubliette steps, the vast stairway that passes through every one of oubliette's 117 levels. Although Rockus has been convinced that you are indeed Laz de Winter, he counsels against revealing yourself to the police and accusing Vincent. Vincent is represented by Silence and Savage, Baroque's oldest and most respectable law firm. By coming forward, you have unshakable proof of your identity and a completely airtight case against Vincent. You will only destroy any future chance of vindication. But before he takes his leave, Rockus frowns. I would like to ask you one last question, he says quietly. You have returned from the dead. I am aware that Dr. Holofernes had her own motives in reanimating you. Nevertheless, you are the recipient of a... Just what is it that you wish to do with your second lease on life? So, we have many options. Revenge on Vincent and his allies, restore our name, gain the terra incognita fortune, protect the Grand Theater and our friends there, learn all the secrets of Baroque, do what we can to combat the Baroque's darkness and suffering, understand of our new condition, accumulate power, simply survive. That is a good question, Trav. We still don't know what makes them peculiar. They don't say. They just are. So, we have 9 choices, 1 through 9. Revenge, restore, gain, protect, learn, combat, understand, accumulate, or survive. You tell me. That perfecting the Holofernes procedure and bringing back the dead goes under understanding the nature of our new condition. Or perhaps learn all the secrets of Baroque. One of the two. I believe we chose survive. I'm pretty sure we chose simply survive last time, as my memory serves, which could be incorrect. One would have to check last week's VOD. Said the theater, yeah. I know at one point we did say the theater, but I don't think it was this time. There is another time where we are asked this question, essentially. 7. Understand the nature of our new condition. Let's do that. Let's just try to understand ourselves. Lots been happening to us. It would be nice to know what the heck is going on. There's so much I do not know about my new nature. I suffer from blackouts, yet I also seem to be becoming stronger faster. I need to know more. Rockus nods. Then I hope Dr. Holofernes can help you. Rockus gravely shakes your hand and takes his leave. You are prepared to exit the gardens as well when a voice calls to you. Mix de Winter. Striding through the fog to intercept you is a slim, exceptionally good-looking young man. His fine features framed by dark red hair worn to shoulder length in the style favored by Baroque's romantic poet artists. The young man bows to you. I apologize for accosting you, but we really must talk. My name is Nicholas. He carries on. I was hidden nearby, listening in on your conversation with the policeman. Spying is hardly a gentlemanly occupation, but I'm a revolutionary, not a gentleman, and the need was urgent. I need to get advice. Trust Rockus. How do we respond to his assertion? Do we ask why not? Do we ask, but should I trust you, an an admitted spy, or this is not your affair? Keep out of it. I believe we did number two last time for this one. Um, so one or three, one or three. Do we ask him why not, or do we tell him to stay out of our business? Damnable spies, all up in everyone's biz. Coming up here telling us what to do. Exactly. This is not your affair. Keep out of it. I don't know what you have against this. I don't know what you have against Nicholas Trav, but it amuses me to no end. You seem to be rather fond of the investigator, but you not want to deal with this spy or get to know him at all, even though he seems to be a poet. But definitely going with number three because it's too funny. This is not your affair. Keep out of it. At least hear what I have to say. Nicholas speaks rapidly, the words spilling impatiently out, tone impassioned. Ruckus has framed innocence before now, and he'll again. Have you noticed how he keeps directing you towards Oubliette? How he would have you believe that some wretched Oubliette sect murdered you? Perhaps he even believes it himself. It's easier for men like him to believe that all the wickedness bubbles of accepting the truth, that the rot in our society starts at the very top, among the upper classes, that it's rooted in the fundamental injustice they perpetuate every day. The oubliette, the oubliette cults are harmless. They're just broken, delusional men and women trying to give their lives a meaning and dignity in the worst place in the world by embracing one lunatic doctrine after another. If you do things Raucus's way, he'll find some group of harmless men and uncover evidence that they did it. For real answers, you need my help. I mean, yeah, at the same time, to us, Trav. Like, he introduces us saying, yes, I was spying on you, but at least he's truthful about actually spying on us. Like, maybe he's not a very good spy. Trav is on the trust the inspector, distrust the spy. He is full tilt. If anyone else wants to weigh in, feel free. But our choices are everything I've seen, Raucus is a fine and good detective. I trust him. I don't know you, and I don't trust you either. I think you're right. I've seen how those in power behave, and the police are their servants. Or do you have any proof that Raucus has framed innocence? Which is what we chose last time, to which he said he did not. Just FYI. Looks like we're going with number one, that we trust the detective. I have. It's hard to trust the self-proclaimed spies of the world, but sometimes they are just doing their job too. It's what they do. They're spies. Nicholas scowls in frustration. You're letting Rox's act fool you. He's not what he seems. One day you'll learn that. Nicholas makes his pitch. You do need to come to Oubliette, he says. Raucus is right about that much. But he'd have you charging around, shaking down the peculiar people in the um, anasomists. I think that word, but that's okay. I know Oubliette much better than any policeman. Come with me instead. The Undercity has 1,000 eyes. Somebody will have seen something, or perhaps you'll recall something while you're there. We'll find out the truth, and mark my words, the trail will lead back to Shelby Gardens and Stoker. Considering the decision you must make, you return to the Grand Theater and your rooms under the clock tower. You have occupied this 3-room apartment for a couple of weeks now. How have you furnished it? think sleepers is exactly what that means. Anosomnists. Yeah, anosomnists. I bungled it the first time. It is anosomnists. There we go. Once I could figure out where the words were, because it's Latin. Goodness, Latin. Not one of my fortes. But yes, I feel like Nicholas uh Nicholas the Spy is the revolutionary spy is definitely based on somebody. But how have we organized our rooms? How have we furnished them? Have we left them just as they were when Mr. Merritt gave us the room? Very stark, very empty? Have we shaped them into a secret library full of our investigations, with files and dossiers all carefully placed according to the system of our own, which is what we chose last time? Have we furnished the room in the wild and opulent deep Eastern style favored by Baroque's most daring bohemians? Are we that hedonistic? Or have we drawn down the curtains and draped the room in a black, draped the room in black, giving it a funeral atmosphere, sort of leaning into the fact that we have come back from the dead? One, two, three, or four? Three, because it looks nicer that way. Okay, we're going bohemian. Let us enjoy our hedonistic style. Oh, welcome back, Winter Fairy. You agree? Three. We are going we are going wearing bohemian. You scattered brightly colored and tasseled cushions across the floors and hung silken drapes along the walls. A bejeweled glass hookah occupies one corner. Artwork in the new magnificent instant style from Rococo hangs on the wall, brilliant and challenging explosions of color. Leather-bound editions of De Profundis, the controversial journal devoted to publishing decadent art and literature, are piled in one corner, and the most recent edition of The Exterminating Angel, Baroque's most shockingly radical newspaper, is on the table alongside a crystal decanter, a wide array of liqueurs from absinthe to whiskey. What do you wish to do before your trip to Oubliette? Do we call upon Julian, the blind violinist? Do we visit Mona again? Or do we prowl around the theater and see if anything requires our attention? We did last time. Aw, poor Caleb. I hope he eats well. And I hope he's feeling better as well, too, Winter Fairy. I know he's been ill recently, and it's not fun. Absolutely not fun. Trav decides visiting Mona might be for the best. We do owe her a drink. We could, of course, follow up upon Julian. We have not spent a lot of time with Julian either last run or this run so far, because we sided with Chloe in chapter 2. Or we could see if the theater that we fixed every mechanical thing for a week straight in needs anything else. Is out. But Trav says visit Mona. And to be honest, I like Mona. I would not mind calling on Mona at all. She's fun. Mona is fun. Let's go talk to her. At Old Slaughter's coffee house, you are told that Mona has finished her shift and can most likely be found at the Royal Observatory in St. Hippolytus. Located on the hill at the center of the St. Hippolytus district, the observatory of Baroque, a spectacular pure white dome surmounting terrace after terrace of immaculately ordered and maintained lawns and flower beds. According to Mona's fellow waitresses, she makes her home nearby in some garret among the warren of curious little lanes and raucous cabarets for which St. Hippolytus is so famous, and the observatory is her favorite spot to sit and relax after work. The Royal Observatory is the home of an academy of navigation, and on your way through the half-empty building, you pass up white marble staircases shot through with veins of deep green through the through tiers of lecture halls and libraries, smell of old books and beeswax polish, with a few solitary readers occupying dim recesses. Most favorite location is said to be the chess room at the top of the building, underneath the dome itself, so it is there to which you set your course. To the chess room. The chess room is as calculated to impress as everything else in the observatory. The floor is divided into squares of black and white marble. A plethora of beautifully carved chess sets in gold, ivory, and ebony is available for use of visitors. The shelves offer an array of chess literature, ponderings of the game, theological treatises on its spiritual underpinnings, collections of chess problems, and bound editions of the chess journals. Chess is immensely popular in Baroque, although it is not quite at the level of national obsession that it is in the neighboring Cadaver Gessorum. The room is empty. You wonder for a moment if Mona is not here after all, but then something catches your attention. Despite the cool winter weather, the bay window overlooking the facade at the front of the room has been left ajar. Following an unaccountable suspicion, you go to it and look out. Twisting your head around, you see Mona. She's dressed in men's clothes, a ragged pair of breeches, a white silk shirt, and a crimson bandana tied in a knot over her head. The piratical effect is completed by her position, perched casually on the lip of the dome just above the window, her legs dangling idly down, seemingly unconcerned by the heart-stopping drop below her. She has a bottle of ruby red wine by her side and a half-full glass in her hand, with a basket at her side. Chris, she says, waving down to you, get a glass for yourself and come up and join me. It's the best view in the city. Do we grin at Mona's swashbuckling spirit and attire? Do we nod in agreement? Or do we roll our eyes, irritated by her childhood? 1, 2, or 3, chat. Grin, nod, or eye roll. What's the worst that can happen? We fall and die again. Up again. Eventually. Trav says we grin and enjoy Mona's swashbuckling spirit and attire. I'm inclined to agree. She's a fun time, as I've said. We are going with 1. The ones have it. A scramble out of the window and onto the worryingly slippery ledge that Mona occupies, and you are at the side of the dealer. There is indeed a stunning view of the city from here, although the vertiginous drop at your feet might present a distraction. You can see across Baroque's bewildering cityscape all the way to Walpole Hill, crowned by the Grand Theatre. On the west side, while to the east, the deep green of Aiken Woods looks like a camp of invading army laying siege to Baroque. Mona has arranged a full picnic, with crusty warm bread fresh from the bakery, soft white cheese, pickles, cold meat, and of course the wine. Do we eat and drink with gusto? Do we eat but avoid drinking in order to keep a clear head, or do we not eat anything at all? Do we not? So, gusto, polite, decline. 1, 2, or 3. Winter Fairy says 2, that we should keep a clear head. We did do sanity very recently, so perhaps a clear head is for the best. But we did eat with great gusto at Mr. Merritt's breakfast a few weeks ago. So it is actually more in character for us to eat and drink heartily. All right. 2 have it. You eat the food laid out, but take no wine. It is best to keep your wits about you when dealing with Mona. What do you wish to talk about? Do you ask Mona about oubliette? Do you suggest a game of chess? Or do you ask Mona why? Ooh. We could get down to business, play games, or we could get to know Mona better. She does like us already, after all. Shall we pursue Mona in this run? You tell me, chat. We probably should do 2, but 3. Yes, and doing Mona. Hmm. I'm gonna pursue Mona. I'm down for a romance, an unconventional romance. Let's go. Mona considers your question, swinging her legs to and fro. Have you ever noticed some Baroque? We always dig down, we never build up. We always move inward and further into the prisons we build for ourselves, never upward skies toward freedom. Maybe that's why all of our stories end in tragedy. There's something wrong with Baroque, something that haunts us and that we can't escape. The observatory is the only place in Baroque where I feel I can breathe free, where I can see the sky. You think of Nicholas and the fierce sympathy he expressed earlier for the worker Juliet, but Mona seems to sense your thoughts and shakes her head. I'm no radical. They say they want change, but they just replace the queen and the aristocracy with the worker, one tyranny replaced by another. Nothing would truly change. I want a world born among the river wharfs and in the rookery can end up living in palaces built with their own wits and courage. I want to set this place free of the labyrinth once and for all. I want people to dream of boundless open skies instead of ending winding tunnels. Do you sympathize with Mona's aspirations? Our choices are yes, it is clear to me that it is her that the only way to save Baroque is by breaking the cycle of abuse and exploitation. Do we say yes and because we feel inspired by her vision of endless skies and radical freedom? Do we say no? Her paradise of absolute freedom and equality would easily be corrupted once again by the rich and powerful, only be ensured when the workers rise. Do we say no because change is always dangerous and very rarely does it herald any kind of improvement? The status quo should be maintained. Or last but not least, no, I'm just in politics and don't care one way or another. So we have two kinds of yes, two kinds of no, and one I don't care. It's not really a no, it's a I just don't care. Trav is all about defeating death. He wants to free everyone to explore the universe. So he feels inspired visions of endless skies and radical freedom. As is Winter Fairy. I guess we're going to agree with her. Yes, yes, my dear. Here we go. Mona has been forgetting herself, speaking with genuine passion and sincerity, very unlike her usual pose of cool and in doing so, she has betrayed her true allegiance. Mona is an agent of Baroque's oldest and most bitter foe. The place where airships and colorful gliders crisscross the skies and the cityscapes are dominated by slender spires and airy walkways. Rococo. And she's wondering whether you have realized this. For a moment, Mona pursues her lips, her expression thoughtful. You tense yourself, sensing that she is weighing the possibility of trying to push you off the ledge and erasing her mistake. But the moment passes. I suppose everyone has some kind of foolish dream, she says instead, her voice a detached unconcern. Trav, you were right. She's from Rococo. Do we sincerely agree with her, pretend to agree with her, or do we vehemently disagree with her? Well, I suppose it's not vehemently, but it is a disagreement. So, yes, pretend yes, or no. Personally, I would like to be sincere. I think, like, we know gone to war with Rococo. We know that happened multiple times, that it's still sort of kind of happening. We don't know why necessarily. We're not really in the midst of all of that, but she's nice enough. And yeah, she's obviously a spy. It's fine. Like, we're okay with her. She helped us out. We're not okay with Nicholas. He was a dick about it. Apparently, we like her style much more than Nicholas's. Better type of spy. All right. The ones have it. We are sincerely agreeing with her. Ooh, flyers. Nice. I don't think that dream is foolish at all. In fact, I want to help you accomplish it. Mona grins. Then welcome to the fight. I'll pass word we've been recruited. You're in the vendetta now, Lazarus. They'll call us traitors, and they'll kill us if they ever catch us. But one day, we'll be remembered as Baroque's true patriots. I've been recruited by the Vendetta, Rococo's notorious spy network, whose reach is said to spread across the globe from Fimbul to Sipingu. why I joined them. Do we agree with Mona's diagnosis of Baroque's fatal flaw? If collaboration with a hostile power is the only way to free its citizens from the labyrinth, so be it. Do we think Rococo is likely to be the ultimate victor in its struggle with Baroque, and I want to be on the winning side? Or whether Mona is a traitor or a hero to serve Rococo, I have developed feelings for her, and I will stand with her, right or wrong. So, have we decided to free Baroque that we think Rococo is going to win, or have we just decided that we're just super fond of Mona and we're in wherever she is, we're with her? I mean, to be fair, he wasn't wrong. The vendetta was after information on him. I don't know if they really want him dead though. I mean, now he's known to be completely by the spies of Rococo, so I don't matters whether he's alive or dead anymore. Yeah, science knows no boundaries, no borders, no limits. We can do it anywhere. Winter Fairy says that she agrees that she wants to collaborate to free Labyrinth. We know from our that the Labyrinth is very heavily a part of Baroque for months. So I guess it's between 3 and 1 whether I believe to help the citizens of Baroque escape the labyrinth or whether I'm just really into Mona. And you know what? I'm going to be really into Mona. That I've decided. Mona's our love interest. Chat does not get to decide. I have decided. Last time I let you guys decide, we were brothers with an inspector. You leave the observatory. A moody Baroque sun, shades of rose and old gold, gradually succumbing to the darkness, dominates the sky. It is time to go to Oubliette. But who to trust? Which guide will you choose through the treacherous subterranean reaches of Oubliette? The stoic veteran detective or the passionate young radical? Nicholas. Ladies and gentlemen, we must choose Raucus or Nicholas. The inspector or the radical? Now, we went with the inspector last time. It worked out pretty okay. We have not gone with Nicholas before. So going with Nicholas will be whole new pathing. Never before seen passage. Trav has already got his heart set on the inspector. He really likes him. But yes, we could do we don't have the same skills as we did before, so we could absolutely do things very differently with him this time around. It's not that we won't see new things, it's that it would be very new if we went with Nicholas. Winter Fairy, what do you think? Don't bribe the kid. As I said, I think the bribing the kid option is just it was the wrong skill. We didn't have enough skill in the right place, is what I think that was about. Remember, our behind the scenes stats do affect things as well. I know, Winter Fairy. All new or only some new? That's the choice here. What should we do, Winter Fairy? You must tell me. We're going with the detective again. Lucky detective. Raucus meets you near the entrance to the Oubliette steps at the end of Hogarth Lane. He wordlessly takes your hand before the two of you make your way down into the darkness. The wide Oubliette steps, a common symbol of the terrible journey into the subconscious and the labyrinth in Baroque verse, go all the way down to the very bottom of the subterranean catacombs, although few would follow them down that far. The further one descends into Oubliette, the greater the dangers become. Dangers of the criminal gangs, and solitary outcasts desperate enough to hide themselves there, as well as the dangers of simply becoming lost in Oubliette's endless, uncharted maze of rooms and passages. Oubliette is devoted to the most noxious and polluting Baroque's industries: factories, foundries, slaughterhouses, and tanneries. In their underground location, the stink of these industries troubles only those wretches who must live and work there. Notes from underground. Any visitor to Oubliette take careful note of the schedule of daily and nightly shifts at the Oubliette places of industry. The vast crowds of workers entering Oubliette for their shift or leaving at the end is an overwhelming tidal mass. Every year, news stories of people trampled to death in the Oubliette workers' haste to leave the pits and once again breathe fresh air. Those are the ones fortunate enough to live on the surface and not in the company provided accommodation in Oubliette itself. Even the vilest rookery in Hogarth Lane is said to be better than the company towns, crowded and claustrophobic warrens designed to squeeze out every penny from an off-duty laborer has, or to force them into certain modes of life and thought in accordance with some grand social and religious experiment. This is not the time of any shift turnovers, and the steps are comparatively quiet. You receive a few wary glances, and people cross the steps to avoid you. It's that murderer, the one in the White Devil, that has them scared, Raucus explains. They've been hunting in Oubliette every week for the past month. The only thing anyone knows about them is that they conceal their face, wear a white mask. The detective scowls. The devil taunts the police, sends letters to the written in their victims' blood. They're utterly depraved. Level 3. Your body was found on level 3 of Oubliette. You exit the Oubliette steps on that level, your way through the clamor and din of the level to the location. Level 3, much like much of Oubliette, is an infernal vision. Workers stripped to the waist, sweat pours, shovel coal into furnaces, glowing cherry amid clouds of suffocating black smoke. Their industry intended to fuel the mills, pistons, and turbines of a factory a level above, in endless and unceasing. As you approach the avenue off which your body was found, you sick and raucous shouting. Turning a corner, you find yourself dazzled by the harshly brilliant lights of a traveling circus. Booths and tents with placards promising exotic dancers from Uppenshad, and the sight of human oddities such as the Geek or Greta the Insect Lady. Ceiling walkers stride upside down along the avenue ceiling, staying attached through rubber suction pads on their boots, and a tattooed contortionist nonchalantly twists herself into agonizing-looking shapes. Raucus shakes his head. I hadn't heard a circus was setting up here. This complicates things. You were found in alleyway 36. Go and see what you can find. I'll make sure nobody disturbs you. Alleyway 36. Alleyway 36 is a small dark space cut into the rock between the courses of the 3rd and 4th Avenues. The noise of the circus is a little lessened here. You turn your attention to the unpromising scene before you. How do we wish to proceed? Now, we use number 3 because we had gone all occult and mesmer the occult skill. We could use our natural powers of observation and detection, or we could use the latest scientific methods, of which we have enough science to use. So, what do we do, my dear friends? Dust for Prince, says Trav. He wishes to use the scientific methods. Does everyone agree? Powers of observation. I think that's insight. Could be. But we have the science. So, observation, science. Prints. All right, we're using the latest scientific methods. We're dusting for those fingerprints now. Earlier, you used Holofren's laboratory below the Grand Theater to put together a thoroughly modern scientific detection kit. Within a small leather case, you have a magnifying glass, a rack of glass vials filled with chemicals with various uses at a crime scene, a set of floatable measuring instruments, a pair of spotless white skin gloves for handling evidence, and a pouch filled with fine gray dust and a brush. You have noticed recently that the whorls and lines on an individual's fingers form a seemingly unique pattern. I have a notion that by spreading this dust across places a suspect has touched, this might settle in that individual pattern. You remove the obstructing material around your face in order to see better, pick up your equipment, and set to work. I was kidding. It was a year ago. We're actually going to do it? Apparently. State of the art. Your equipment is harder to use in the of oubliette than it was when you put it together in the ground. You mix two chemicals together that should cause any bloodstains on the ground to glow. They just sizzle in a foul odor. The fixed is blown away in the breeze. You can find nothing of interest. What was that? It is just then that a flash of movement catches your eye. Someone is watching you from the far end of the alleyway. It is a little street urchin, her frame emaciated by privation and deprivation. Her eyes are wide with terror as she looks at you, unmasked as you are. Then she speaks. When she speaks, you realize that it is not just your scarred face that shocks her. You, dead! I saw! Her hands go to her mouth. You want it back! You came for it! Oh no! With that, she is taken to her heels and is running for the crowds. You are right behind her. For words, the girl must have found your body here more than a year ago. And it seems as though she took something that might provide a clue. Stop her, Raucus! Out. Raucus makes a grab for her, but the nimble urchin simply slides between the detective's legs and continues on. You and Raucus race after her. Raucus is soon lost in the crowds and confusion. You carry on alone. Horror and alarm at the sight of your appearance as you push your way through the crowd, but you have no time to conceal yours again. The urchin girl crashes through a display of fire jugglers, knocking carefully choreographed performance into disarray and sending the flame brands spinning dangerously out of control. You charge after her, just in time to see her disappearing down the mouth of another alleyway. You fall behind with dogged determination, almost gaining enough ground to reach out and touch her over something on the ground in front of you and are sent sprawling. The bundle at your feet. Springing back up, you are about to resume the chase when you glance at the bundle over which you tripped. Stop and examine it more closely. It is a corpse. The corpse of a tall, thin individual, much muffled up in a long coat with a slouch hat pulled over the eyes. You push the brim of the hat up. You see a wedge-shaped face with bulbous eyes on either side. A face from a nightmare. A face you first saw upon awakening from uneasy dreams in the attic of the Grand Theater 2 weeks ago. Mr. Merritt, proprietor of the Grand Theater, lies dead before you. His body has been stabbed repeatedly, the delicate joints of his elongated midsection crushed and shattered, a black-green ichor leaking the wounds. The fury of the attack, the choice of a knife as the weapon, and the location leave little doubt. This is the work of the White Devil, the murderer who stalks Baroque, killing for no clear reason. He must have chosen the old imp at random, as he does all his victims. But what was Mr. Merritt doing here? You don't know why Mr. Merritt was here, but you know he had some connections with circus from his time among the freak show circuits. Perhaps he came to meet with friends, or to attend some unfinished business from those days. Mr. Merritt, shy and all too conscious of would naturally the shadows and avoided the most crowded and well-lit areas of the circus. That would have made him easy prey for the White Devil. Murder! Murder! Falsely accused. You look up from the butchered corpse. A crowd has gathered at the mouth of the alley. They are staring in horrified fascination. It's them! It's the White Devil! Don't let them get away! Others have gone around to block the far exit to the alley, and now both groups are advancing on you. A shaft of light from the circus's fairy lanterns catches your face, and the people gasp in horror. Monster! Hideous! They are still fearful to come too close, but they are clearly working themselves up to rush you. How will we deal with the situation? Do we prepare to defend ourselves? Do we try to persuade them of our innocence, or do we call for the detective to come and calm the situation down? We actually did use the detective last time. However, we did not have any performance last time. We have performance this time. We could persuade them of our innocence this time. Well, he's standing somewhere nearby. We've lost him in the crowd. We don't know where he is currently in this moment. Trav votes 3. What does everyone else in chat think? Please, please tell. I'm always happy to hear from my chat. So, do we prepare to defend ourselves? Do we try to persuade the crowd of our innocence of Mr. Merritt's murder? Or do we call for Inspector Detective Raucus to come and calm the situation down for us? Because he's with us, and he might be able to do just that. So far, the threes are winning. Anyone else like to jump in on this vote? Looks like we're going to call for the inspector. Raucus! You search this crowd for Raucus, eventually finding him at the back, to get to you. You point him out. That man is an officer of the law. He'll vouch for me. Raucus nods emphatically. The person is known to me and would not do this. There has been a misunderstanding. Convinced by the certainty in Raucus's voice, the crowd calms down. Look, Raucus says suddenly. He points to the ground by the body. There are bloodstains on one of Mr. Merritt's claw-like appendages and a thin trail of blood, barely visible in the darkness, on the body. It appears that Mr. Merritt managed to injure his attacker before he was murdered. It is clear now that you could not have been that attacker, since the trail leads away from the alley. The White Devil is injured. There's a chance of hunting them down before they manage to leave level 3 and disappear into the smoke and darkness of Oubliette. Raucus quickly takes charge of the situation. He sends some people to shut down the gates in and out of the area. If they can get there in time, there's a chance of trapping White Devil here. He sends one boy running to fetch police constables, and then he orders search parties to start combing the area block by block to try and flush the killer out. Raucus is in his element now. He is stern and implacable, inspiring immediate respect among those he talks to. The police are by no means popular in Oubliette, but the force of Raucus's personality overcomes suspicion and hostility. What do we do? Do we join the search for the White Devil because we are curious who he is? Do we join the search for him because justice must be done for our friend? Well, justice must be done. Do we join it just to get revenge for Mr. Merritt? Or do we return to looking for the urchin fled from us earlier because she clearly knows something? Now, we looked for the urchin last time and it did not go very well. This time, Mr. Merritt, dear Mr. Merritt, who was so kind to us, we must find him. Everyone is willing to join the search just because justice must be done. All right, to justice. You join a handful of searchers combing the southwestern side of the area. An hour later, you are among a handful remaining. Most of your fellows have drifted off one by one. You suspect to the beer house or back to the diversions of the circus. You and the others continue to search. Your diligence is rewarded when you spot a flash of fresh blood on a doorway leading into some long abandoned storeroom. Peering inside, you see a crumpled figure lying on the floor within, a plain white mask at its side. This can be none other than the White Devil. Looking closer, you see that it is a young man, his features handsome but marred by a win and running a little bit too fat. His right leg is a gory, tattered mess. Mr. Merritt did not go down without a fight. He looks up as you enter, his gaze feverish and unfocused, sweat coursing down his face. Hello. His accent is that of an educated man. Please, make yourself at home. Sorry I can't offer you anything to drink. A wheezing, pained laugh. As you no doubt guessed, I'm the man in the papers referred to as the White Devil. And you? How do we respond? Do we answer with our name, Lazarus de Winter? Do we answer with justice, as we had pursued him to do justice? Do we answer that we are the friend of the man he just murdered? Or that we are the phantom of the monster, the Avenger, or the person who's going to make you pay for your crimes? How do we answer the White Devil? Winterfairy has voted for the Phantom of the Grand Theater. 3. We aren't giving a name. We're telling him that we cannot be persuaded to let him go. A friend of the man you just murdered. I think I'm going to agree with Trav. Giving this white devil, in case he escapes, our name, terrible idea. Absolutely terrible idea. A friend of the man you just murdered, however, is the truth, and it will ensure that the white devil knows his place in what is about to happen. Because we are mad. We demand justice. Armed, I'm sure. He coughs wetly. Perhaps you're wondering why I did it. The papers don't seem to. They're much more interested in the lurid details of what I did rather than why I did it. That's why I first started sending them my verse. He looks absurdly petulant. It's very frustrating. When I began, I was naive enough to imagine that my motives would be the main interest of the investigation, but I was quite wrong. Everyone seemed to take it for granted that my actions were self explanatory, even logical. That's the city all over. How do we respond to him? Do we not care why he did it? Do we ask him why he did it? Or do we say, obviously, you did it because you're a madman? How do we respond, chat? I don't care. Why? Or you're mad or madman. 1, 2, or 3. Winter Fairy says, obviously, because you did it because you're a madman. Anybody else? Anybody else want to weigh in? I need your help, chat. These decisions are hard. Trav says 1. We not care. He killed our friend. Don't leave it up to me, chat. Don't leave it up to me. We have a vote for 3 and we have a vote for 1. Anyone else in chat can weigh in and sway the vote. Trav does not want him to brag about how clever he is, which is why he's voted against 2. This is all new to us. We've never tracked down the White Devil before, so. Winter Fairy has switched sides. All right, we no longer care why he did it. He's just mad. His aggrieved look intensifies, and he mutters in annoyance. You can hear other searchers calling to one another. Soon they discover the White Devil's hiding place as well. If it makes any difference, Devil says, clearing his throat. My family is rich. I'm Jack Mortimer. If that name means anything to you, they pay handsomely for a safe return. You know the name. The Mortimers are indeed immensely wealthy and influential. They are known patrons of the Promethean Society and several Greylock colleges. If you gained their favor by saving their lunatic son from justice, they would undoubtedly be able to fund Holofern's research and supply her with equipment and chemicals. Even if you deliver Mortimer over to the police instead, there is a good chance that his family's wealth and influence will allow him to go free or receive a lighter punishment than his crimes deserve. What will we do? Do we spare the White Devil and smuggle him back to his family in Shell Gardens? Do we turn the White Devil over to the detective imprisonment and trial? Or do we turn the devil over to the mob and let the mob do with him as they will? Which is likely a dance, to be quite frank. So, do we do the selfish thing? Do we do the justice thing? Or do we do the practical thing? Trav says 2, justice. He wants justice. Winterfairy also wants justice. Anyone else want to weigh in on? Otherwise, we're going for the justice. Like to justice. Turn the devil over to our Inspector Marcus. You emerge from the storeroom and signal the other searchers over. Having set a watch over the devil, you go to find Rock, joined by a couple of police constables. He shakes your hand. Thank you, Lazarus. You've done the right thing. The constables the devil bound and in their church, despite a restive mob that would rather enact some swift, rough justice of their own. The presence of two such formidable figures as Rock yourself, however, prevents them from doing anything other than hissing and spitting as the murderer, his head down and his face expressionless, is led up the oubliette steps to the constable's horse-drawn van, waiting on the surface. Rock is standing in the wintry dawn mists, shakes his head as he watches the van pull away. That was the Mortimer boy, he says. They're a rich and powerful family, and they'll fight his with everything they have. But maybe the White Devil has made himself too notorious for them to save from hanging. He looks at you. I told you that you did the right thing, and you did. Even if the White Devil gets away free because of this, justice isn't satisfying the way revenge is. It would have been to let the mob tear the devil apart, but it's what holds Baroque together. Raucus appears uncharacteristically hesitant. When that mob cornered you, I thought I'd lose you again. He clears his throat. I know that sounds strange. I just spent so long studying your murder, mourning for somebody I'd never known. I dreamed 100 times that I found a way to save you, even though that was impossible, even though you died before we ever met. When I saw you in Shelby Gardens, it is as though I had been given something back. How do we respond to this very sincere moment from a very overcome detective? Do we say, I'm with you now, and this isn't a dream, and I'm glad it's not? Do we say, I'm thankful to the efforts you've made on my behalf, but I am my own person? Or, you seem to have been obsessed with me. I find the idea of featuring in your dreams highly alarming. Trav is all about best bro. We now know, during this run, we learned in this run that the inspector detective has lost his entire family. Not only did his wife go off to war and get killed, but his son, taking his mother's death very poorly, became somewhat of a criminal and had to turn his own son in for justice, who then died to a flare of death while he was incarcerated. He has quite literally lost everyone. Having us back has kind of rocked his entire understanding of the world and reality. So, unless anyone else has anything to say, we're going with the best bro option because chat is very fond of this detective. Raucus bows his head. He reaches out to touch your hand for just a moment, though to reassure himself that you really are real. His fingers are hard and calloused, but gentle. Thank you, he says at last. He clears his throat. I need to go now. I hope we'll meet again. You walk back alone to the Grand Theater. Real news. It has been a long, hard night. You can deal with the consequences of Mr. Merritt's death and the things you have learned oubliette in a few hours. Just now, you need to be by yourself in your rooms for a time. You slip into the theater through a back door and climb into the rooms under the clock tower. As you enter, you are surprised to see that a note has been pushed under the door. It has not been signed, but its combination of near illegible handwriting and atrocious spelling could only have come from Holofern's pen. Need to talk to you. Did some tests. Bad news. Problem with the H procedure. You're dying. End of chapter. So, we have arrived at chapter 5, and this is where we will end for today's session. Let's see how our stats have changed as we wrap up, and we'll be all ready for tomorrow when we start with chapter 5. Yes, dun dun dun. Absolutely, Winter Fairy. That is exactly it. So, our athletics, occult, and combat skills are still very much neutral. We're not good at them. We're not bad at them. We're just exceptional in any way. We have a touch of insight, but we are firmly a scientist and a performer. As for our demeanor, we're no more ruthless than compassionate, but we are debonair, forthright, reasoned, and romantic. A bit hedonistic as well, but no more courteous than blunt. So that is our entire personality, and we are a very reasoned person this run. I don't think we ever got our reason this high before. As for our life, we have still 100% of the electricity in our system, but we have taken a pretty severe hit to sanity by going to the asylum today. Oh boy, did that machine do a number on us. As for our pursuits, we don't have much in the way of minions, sabotage, research, or evidence. We're just a touch on the darkness side. We do like the theater folk, and we've decided to become quite lawful indeed, as well as slightly siding with Rococo, just recently the vendetta. As for the people in our life, Holoferns is pretty friendly with us. Julian is not much more than an acquaintance. Mona likes us quite a bit, as does the good Detective Raucus. Chloe is a bit fond of us, and Nicholas, well, we didn't like him at all, and he doesn't like us either because we told him off. So that is where we stand with our stats. We did, however, accrue a couple of achievements today. We have seen the inmate of the East Wing and learned the identity of inmate 4386. We have also become a night flyer and joined the Vendetta, Rococo's dreaded secret service. Yesterday, we also managed to grab like a fly in amber and attend the Frozen Man's awakening. So those are the new achievements from this run that we've accrued so far. Everything else was from our original run, which I have in the VODs from last week. Still on Twitch, but they are definitely on YouTube if anyone wants to go look them up and see how we compare. So, with that being said, that is the end of stream today. And thank you guys all for joining me. I really appreciate you coming by. The lurkers are just as happy to see you guys as the people who participate in all the decision making here. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of the day. Maybe. I don't think Nicholas knows that we're in with Mona, to be quite frank. I think Nicholas is just mad that we were like, stay out of our business, noob. But yes, so bye guys. I will hopefully see all of you tomorrow when I stream again.